It's time for Nip Talk.
First segment we're going to do today is it's a question I hear all the time. And so, because we always do a plastic surgery topic, I like to cover things that people ask about. And so one question I get all the time when I have people in my office is about breast implants, silicone versus saline. Mm-hmm. Because as you guys may or may not have known, like in the 90s, they actually took silicone implants off the market.
Yeah.
And so like there was this pretty bad stigma with silicone implants for quite some time. And so when I first started here in 2010, we were using silicone again, and people would always ask me, are these things really safe? Because all they remember is about how they got taken off the market and there's all these lawsuits. So I want to just talk about them for a little bit because I think it's good information to know. And talking about this, I think you have to start with a history. And so little brief history lesson. I'm a total history nerd, so I looked up a couple things. The very first breast augmentation was actually done, the first silicone breast augmentation was actually done in Houston, Texas, a lady named Timmy Lindsay in 1962. I actually found a picture of her. That's Miss Lindsay, who received the very first silicone breast augmentation. And so after that was done, the popularity of silicone implants did start to rise pretty quickly. And through the late 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, silicone implants became extremely popular. Well, back in those days, the silicone implants were actually a liquid silicone. Mm-hmm. It was like motor oil was like the consistency of it. So what happened? Yeah, I know, it's kind of freaky, right? And I still, to this day, am taking out like those old implants. And so what ended up happening is when they started to reach their lifespan, so 20 plus years, what happened is these things would rupture, and then that liquid silicone would leak out.
And just poison you, pretty much?
Poison's a pretty strong word. Like the reason that they
That's what pops into my head.
That's good. No, that's a great question, and I like that you're asking these things because these are very similar questions I get. People in my office like, well, like what happened back then? Well, fortunately, silicone is fairly inert. It's why most medical products are made of silicone, like catheters and like implantable infusoports are made of silicone. But the problem was when that liquid silicone leaked out, it would actually irritate the inside of that pocket where the implant lived. And what was happening is it would have caused this really severe scarring. I mean, to the point that people were having pain and their breasts were like getting all deformed. And so when that started happening, and it started happening kind of en masse, right? Because once enough time had gone by that these things started to fail, then you had a bunch of them failing at the same time. So you went from where you had a bunch of people doing well to like a bunch of people are not doing well. And then people started saying, hey, is something going wrong here? So what happened is in 1992, the Food and Drug Administration actually came along and said, we're going to put a halt on this. And so I did bring a video because talking about the scarring, Travis, that very first video, this is basically a video of me opening up one of these old school implants. This is an implant that's like 30 years old.
I've seen these.
Have you seen it? Roll it. Travis, can you roll that video? Hey everybody, it's Dr. Hermann here. I just got done with the surgery and I have this. And what is it? Is it a dragon egg? Is it some heart? No, it's actually a 30-year-old breast implant that's completely encapsulated with scar tissue. And I got it out all in one piece, and I'm going to cut it open here. So let's take a look and see what we got. I don't think it's ruptured. I'm not 100% sure. Now I may rupture it just opening this up. Either I ruptured it or it was ruptured. You hear that crunch? I don't know if you can hear that. That's actually calcium on the shell. Here's some more of it, listen. It's crunchy, it's like cornflakes. Ooh, I think it's intact. Ooh, I don't know if I ruptured it or if it was ruptured. I don't know, I may have done that. Actually, I can't tell. Oh yeah, I think I did that. I think it was intact. Pretty sure. So here's that silicone too. It's kind of gross. This is considered a liquid silicone. It's not the new gels. The new gels don't leak like this. And then here's that shell, just perfect. I mean, all out in one piece, and you can see this is all calcium deposit from the effects of the silicone on that shell. So anyway, thought that was really cool. Thought you'd want to see it. 30-year-old silicone implant, got all out in one piece. Patient's going to do great. Yeah, it's pretty wild, right? Did you guys hear that crunch?
Intense.
So that crunching is actually calcium that builds up in that shell due to the severe reaction from it being ruptured. And I think that one was ruptured. You could see the goo on the outside of it, and that one was a little bit more solid than some of them. There actually were some out there that were even more liquidy, but yeah, that's just kind of an example of like what you would find and what those patients were going through, you know, when these things kind of went bad. So what happened is that the FDA took them off the market in '92, and they did about 8 or 9 years of research because they wanted to see, like, you know, because what happened is they started blaming other things for the implants, like, oh, they're causing cancer or all these other like serious medical issues.
Yes.
So they did like years and years of testing, and what they basically found is that none of those connections held up. That the biggest problem was that the liquid silicone was causing people to have the reaction just like that patient had, and although there was no picture of her, if you saw her before I took that out, she was really severely scarred and painful, and the breast just looked really awful.
Yeah, it looked deformed.
Yeah, like the implant looked deformed,
Yeah.
right? So they did all the studies, and in 2001, the FDA started trials again for a new generation of silicone. So when we talk about implants today, we always say gummy bear. You hear that word thrown around, you know, gummy bear implants. So the reason they call them gummy bears is because that is the consistency of the gel. It's a gel now, not a liquid. And because it's changed, you can literally cut those things in half. And I don't know if you can see in the video, but there was like just that stuff glistening as it like came off my fingers. The new ones won't do that. They're more solid. So like if it gets a rupture, you don't have that leakage, and therefore you're not getting like that severe reaction that people were getting back in the day. So as I said, they released them in 2001. By 2006, the FDA fully approved implants again. However, they did say that they wanted people to get MRIs to check for rupture every 3 years, and every 10 years they wanted the implants to be replaced. So all the surgeons were like, okay, fair enough. These are new products. We want to make sure everything is safe. So we were getting MRIs, and of course, all the MRIs were negative. Like we were getting none that were positive. But I say none, like very, very, very tiny fraction of a percent. And in 10 years, we started replacing these implants, and we found that the implants looked like they were brand new.
Right.
Which makes sense. I mean, you think about a car built in 2006 versus a car built in 1970. I mean, the cars or anything, technology just gets better and better and better. And so after 10 years, when we started opening people up, we found that really we were putting people at risk by doing a surgery they didn't need.
Yeah, there's no point.
Yeah, right. Because so nowadays, like for my patients, speaking specifically to how long will they last and when do I need to do something, I tell my patients, if you're not having a problem, don't worry about them.
Yeah.
The FDA recommends you get them routinely monitored, but it's hard to get insurance to pay for that. It's going to be a lot of negative studies. If something happens, come see me. Otherwise, just live your life. So nowadays in 2022, the overwhelming majority of implants are silicone, and they're not without some risks. And so with everything, I like to look at all sides of it, right? Because I'm not that plastic surgeon. I'm not that guy that's sitting here saying, oh, plastic surgeons, greatest thing ever. Like go get plastic surgery, right? I want people to be informed. Want people to know. So when I talk to patients about risks, I mean, any surgery you have has risks like bleeding and infection, but those are like super, super low. So what are risks specific to the implants? For me, the biggest one, it still is scarring. And it's not necessarily due to the rupture that those patients had, but just the irritation of doing the surgery to put the implant in carries some risk of having contracture. And so when I talk to my patients, I tell them that the national average of that's around 10%. For me, it's less because I do this all the time. It's around 2-3%. I get someone gets contracture, and it doesn't get bad like that one patient has, but it can be enough that you might want to have surgery for it. And so I want to make sure people are aware, because there is a very small percentage of people that will have the surgery and then they get some scarring, and then they have to go back to surgery to fix that. And luckily, it is pretty easily fixable.
Right.
The other question I get is, how likely are these to rupture? And so I got one more video. This is a video I did. Now, the video I did on social media actually had music too, but I know if I put it up on Facebook or YouTube, they may pull it down. So I took the music out of it. So it's a little less exciting, because the music was Guns N' Roses, so I thought it went really well.
Nice.
But I have an implant. I have a video of me torture testing implants. Can you roll it, Travis? Breast implant? Let's find out. How tough is a silicone breast implant? Pretty tough. So that implant actually survived all of that. That was the same implant. I didn't have like a bag of them that I was like, using. Like those things are pretty, like they're very vulnerable to sharp damage. Like you can cut them with like a knife or like a pen or something, but like blunt trauma. And I get people all the time that come into my office, not all the time, but periodically it's like, oh, I have breast implants, I was in a car wreck, like do I need to be worried? I'm like, nope. Like I've never seen anybody get into a trauma and have one rupture.
Where did you get the ideas for like the tasks or the tests that you would put?
Oh man, I just like, this is what I do like in my downtime.
I feel like you just went into straight boy mode.
You're like, right.
How can I mess this up?
Dude, I have videos of me putting them in the microwave. Like I have videos, I have one video where I ran over a breast implant with my truck and like it didn't pop. I thought for sure when I ran over with my truck that it was gonna just boom. And we know what it did? It just like, it got really, really flat and then when it was the tires off, it just went whoop, right back. It's crazy, right? But anyway, so yeah, I mean, the silicone implants today are very tough. Like they're going to last a long time, and I think that the risks are very low. Now, there's one thing, just as a teaser, that we're going to talk about, and I think we've teased it in the past, is that breast implant illness. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a newer thing that's come into the media, and there are certain. It's a very small percentage. The last time I looked at the data, which is pretty recently, it was like less than 1% of patients who get implants that will say that they believe their implants are giving them like kind of vague symptoms of like headache, fatigue, brain fog, joint pain. Danica Patrick actually is a big proponent of this, and she was having some issues, and she had her breast implants out, and she felt like she got a lot better. Mm-hmm. And so when that first came out, I didn't put a lot of stock in it because there's been so many research papers written about it. But I've done a little bit more research into it, and I take it a little bit more serious now, and it's something I actually talk with my patients about. And so we're gonna have a segment coming up, maybe in the next few weeks, because I think that we need to dedicate some time to talk about that because. Yeah. It's something that it's really hot right now. It's in in the news, and you see about it on social media. And I'm not that surgeon that just discounts it just because I want to put in implants. Yeah. But I'm a science guy, right? I always am like, what does the science say? So we're gonna dig into that one day.
Well, the subject is near and dear to my chest, I guess, because I have implants.
Oh, do you? Okay.
I got them done probably when you started your practice or started doing surgery, like 2010.
Yeah, 2010.
Yeah.
Now, did you go silicone or saline?
Saline, because I was so scared to
Were
get
you?
silicone.
Okay, see?
But the doctor,
wow, all right.
all the questions and all that stuff you just went over were all the things that like went through my head.
Yeah.
Whenever I was thinking about doing it, obviously I did, but like, he didn't say anything like.
He didn't go into the detail?
Well, he didn't scare me away from getting silicone either. He was just like, these ones feel more normal than the saline ones, but either one is a good option for you.
Sure. So, so my biggest gripe about saline implants, here's my complaints about them. One, they don't feel like breast tissue. Like you can totally tell when someone has saline implants if you're like, feeling of them. Two, they tend to look less natural because you can get rippling. Mm-hmm. If you're a thinner person and you don't have a lot of breast tissue, you can actually see the implant on the side. Mm-hmm. And so that's a problem. And then lastly, they don't last as long. Like, about 10-ish years is when you see them start to rupture. And the reason
I have to get mine redone soon.
Yeah, I mean, if they rupture, you'll know it because it'll go flat overnight. Your body will absorb that saline. Yeah, that's common. I see people in my office for that all the time. Like they'll wake up one morning and their implant's just gone. Like their breast is like flat. But yeah, it's because they ripple more, and those ripple points become weak spots in the implant, and so they definitely don't last as long as the silicone. So
I might need to make an appointment soon.
No rush, but I'm happy to see you anytime you want. Okay, I think that's a good topic. It's nice, because there's a lot of questions about that. So I for me, it's like. Silicone implants are the way to go just because they look more natural, feel more natural, and they last longer. So, and I, just for me, like the saline implants, I've never really been a big fan of them. Yeah. I started plastic surgery right when silicone was picking up speed, and so.
Yeah, the doctor wasn't very I get silicone.
Passionate about one way or the other.
Really good.
Yeah, when I started in 2010, I was leaning people towards silicone already because I just worked with him so much. Like
he was definitely an older doctor.
So
he's probably saline safest.
Right,
kind
yeah.
of
So
vibe.
when I did my fellowship in cosmetic breast and body, the guy I worked with is he's a super famous plastic surgeon, Dennis Hammond, and so he was one of the FDA lead investigators for silicone implants. So I felt like I had a little bit more knowledge base working with him.
Yeah, probably, for
So.
sure.
All right, good topic. All right.